Hi there, I'm Mary Knabe. Welcome to my Stampin' Piece studio. Today I'm going to show you some very easy to make cards that really have a wow factor to them. And what's a little bit different about these cards is they each are going to use the same embossing folder, the Layered Florals 3D embossing folder, but I'm making the embossed piece of cardstock the focal point of the card. It's not going to play a background role. So in other words, I'm giving the Layered Florals 3D embossing folder center stage on today's cards. Each of the cards I'm going to show you and demonstrate for you use the Layering Leaves stamp set. In particular, I'm using the Sending Hugs sentiment. And I'm also going to be using the Layered Florals 3D embossing folder. So I'm going to start out by showing you a couple of cards I made where the embossed piece of cardstock takes center stage. It is the focal point of the card. So here are two of them. You can see I just used simple white on white color combination, and I've got a punch of color by using Melon Mambo ink for stamping the sentiment. They're basically the same card. One is horizontal, the other vertical. But you can see it's easy to see all the detail in this wonderful embossed piece. Then I made another set. Instead of doing white on white, I wanted to do a tone on tone color. And with so many fabulous Stampin' Up! Colors, the possibilities are endless. I chose to use Melon Mambo for each of these cards. Again, making the Layered Florals embossed piece the focal point of that card. So you can see all the wonderful detail in the images embossed on that cardstock. And again, just keeping it simple, I added a simple tag with a pretty bow and then added some silver festive pearls to match. Before I show you the next set of cards, I actually want to introduce you to a particular stamping technique. So the first thing I'm going to do is emboss this piece of basic white cardstock, and it measures 5 1/4 by 4 inches. Again, I'm using the Layered Florals 3D embossing folder. And I'm going to simply insert that basic white cardstock. And just a friendly reminder that when you are using embossing folders, you want the folded end of the embossing folder going through your machine first. And you do not want to roll it back, okay? So put it in fold first. And for 3D embossing folders, we use plates 1 and plates 4 of Stampin' Up's Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. This embossing folder does an amazing job of showing off all that detail. So now let me add some color to it. This is still going to be the focal point of my card, or we're going to give it center stage. But instead of leaving it one color, I'm going to add 3 colors to it. And I'm going to start with Melon Mambo. And to add each color, I'm using a sponge dauber. And I'm just going to lightly tap this Melon Mambo color onto the large flowers, the large embossed flowers. It's okay if the ink goes off the flower a little bit. When this is all finished and done, you're going to have a lovely piece of cardstock, embossed cardstock with beautiful colors. And it's okay if some of that ink goes beyond the embossed piece. That's part of this fabulous coloring technique, is it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to worry about staying in the lines and such. And I want to be sure to add color to those flowers and leaves that are along the outside edges of my cardstock. I think that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to switch over to Granny Apple Green. So I'm also switching out my sponge dauber. And I'm just going to tap this Granny Apple Green ink onto all of the leaves on this cardstock, both the large leaves and the small leaves. To get those small leaves, you might want to hold your dauber at an angle and tap it, so you're just getting little pats of ink rather than large pats of ink. Again, don't worry about being perfect. Don't worry if you get some ink on the flat part of the cardstock. In other words, the non-embossed part of the cardstock. This is a technique that's very forgiving. We don't have to do precise coloring. Kind of gives the embossed piece an artsy look to it. And of course, you can choose any colors that you like. I happen to like this combination of the three. It's Melon Mambo, Granny Apple Green, and Daffodil Delight. Yes, Daffodil Delight. Again, just lightly tapping the ink onto the small flowers with my Daffodil Delight dauber. And I think that looks really good. What do you think? Doesn't that really stand out now? The large flowers, the small flowers, all the leaves. I love how it turned out. Now, if you're wondering how I came up with that color combination, let me show you this. This is my Stampin' Up! Color Coach. And I decided I wanted some big, bright pink flowers. So I started flipping through my color coach, looking at some of the different pinks, and I decided I would use Melon Mambo. So I flipped to that card, and I pulled this color combination. So the Stampin' Up! Color Coach is a great way to get some help with color combinations, or maybe try a color combination that we hadn't thought of before, that sort of thing. And this can be found on my blog, stampinpiece.com. It has everything you need, including instructions to make a Stampin' Up! Color Coach of your own, like this one. Now let's go ahead and finish out this card. I'm using a piece of basic white thick cardstock for my card base. The reason I use thick here is that it stands up better than the regular white cardstock. It's a little thicker, so it gives a nicer, sturdier card base. Leave that there. The next thing I'm going to do is adhere this. And this, I love this embossing folder because it works well either direction. I'm going to make a horizontal card this time. I'll be sending this card to a friend who is just going through some hard stuff. And I think it'll be a nice pick-me-up for her. Number one, to let her know somebody's thinking of her. And number two, to send a hug through the mail. Are any of you huggers? I'm a big hugger. So when I can't see somebody in person and I know they can use a hug, this is my favorite sentiment from one of my favorite stamp sets, the Layering Leaves stamp set. So I'm stamping this with Melon Mambo ink, coordinates with the ink I used for the large flower. I used the tailor-made tags dies to cut these out. Okay, they're the same size. Die cut one from white and one from Melon Mambo. And this I'm just going to use as a layer behind the white tag. I'm going to match up those circles. I just put my adhesive at the bottom of that white tag to catch that Melon Mambo tag underneath. And then, I want to put one right over that dot. And then I will decide where I want this. In the middle, can go towards the bottom, towards the top. It can be anywhere you like. I kind of like it like this. We're in the center, but it's angled. I've got this beautiful silver and white sheer ribbon. I have to say, sheer ribbons are my favorite. I think they just look so classy and elegant. And they kind of go with anything. Plus, they're really easy to work with. It's easy to tie a bow with sheer ribbon. So this is truly one of my favorite ribbons ever, the silver and white sheer ribbon. I'm just going to trim off the ends. And then I'll use a glue dot behind the knot of my bow to adhere this to my tag right there. And then I'm going to finish off my card with some festive pearls in silver. This festive pearls are currently in the 2023 to 2024 annual catalog. They come in 4 colors, the red, kind of a, what I want to say, like a sagey green, silver, and then gold. Whoops, didn't quite pick that up. And I'm just going to put 3 in a row right here. So what do you think? Isn't this a fun way to add some color to a simple yet elegant and very detailed embossing folder like the Layered Florals embossing folder? So again, here are my 3 sets of cards. There's the ones with multiple colors. Here's the set with Melon Mambo tone-on-tone colors. The white actually acts as the pop of color here. And then here are my white on white cards with the Melon Mambo ink providing a pop of color. But as you can see, all of these allow the layered floral embossed piece to be the focal point of the card, for it to take center stage and get all the accolades when people are looking at your cards and saying, wow, how did you do that? I hope you enjoyed today's demonstration, and I look forward to sharing more creative inspiration and projects with you in the future. Happy stamping!